Well, I'm Bobby Garrett from the University of Louisville. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship there, where I research primarily corporate venturing and corporate entrepreneurship. The paper is on internal corporate venturing, which are new businesses formed within larger corporate parents. And these new businesses are often experiments for the corporation. They aren't areas in which the corporation has a lot of knowledge about the products and markets that they're offering. They really are new business initiatives. So I've been really interested in what parents do to make sure that those new business domains get explored properly and how they can maximize the performance of those new businesses. So years ago, I worked for a large company in Houston, Texas. It was ExxonMobil, and we did a lot of work there on new product development, a lot of new initiatives that we were developing there. And there were a lot of things that went well with those experiences, and there were a lot of things that I thought could have been improved on, and individually some frustrations for me. And so I became an academic in order to explore how large established companies could better entrepreneur new ideas. So this research is really exciting to me because it goes back to some data I collected as a doctoral student when I was at Indiana University. And the data is from large established companies who have several ventures going on simultaneously. And I had an opportunity over a couple years' time to go meet with many of the top executives at these firms and ask them to provide data on their entrepreneurial initiatives. And so what happened is, this data is incredibly difficult to get because a lot of times the corporate executives don't want to talk to anybody about their pet projects, their secrets, right? There's reasons these things aren't propagated in the media and talked about widely. Well, sometimes because they often fail, and that's embarrassing for the companies, and a lot of times because these are the next steps, the secret intellectual property that they don't want to share with their competitors. So there had to be a lot of trust generated between me and the executives so that they would share the information. And I'd go and interview them, and then each of those executives would provide a set of internal corporate ventures that they were comfortable sharing with me. And then I would go to each of the venture managers, the people who were responsible for the day-to-day operations of those businesses, and convince them to share operational level data with me about those ventures. And this really took about 2 years. We interviewed over 80 large established corporations in the American Midwest, eventually getting 145 corporate ventures from about 72 different parent companies. Yeah, so what we found, and this paper specifically investigates the degree to which ventures evolve their value proposition over time. Because a lot of times what happens is the parent company and even the venture level managers, they think they know what they're doing when they start the business, but of course they have to learn. Because the new business is an experiment, there's going to be lots of learning over time, and so they may adjust their value proposition that they deliver to their customers. Well, what we found is that while it may be initially good to evolve the value proposition, that there's a point at which it becomes a bad thing to do, right? You can evolve your value proposition up to a certain point where you're learning, but after that, you're making so many changes to the value proposition that it has a detrimental effect on the venture's performance. What was really interesting though is that we added a moderation effect where we looked at the degree to which the parent company had relevant market knowledge about the new venture. And when the parent company had very little market knowledge, there was no market familiarity between the parent and the venture, what happens is any amount of value proposition evolution immediately starts this negative effect because they really are just taking shots in the dark. They're not making those changes based on knowledge. They don't have any experience on which to base their judgments on how they should evolve the value proposition. So that initially positive reaction really only holds true for parents that have relevant market knowledge that can make changes based on good judgment. One thing that I found particularly interesting in the findings is there's a figure in this manuscript that shows that in fact some of the highest performing ventures are those that do not have any market familiarity with the parent venture. One of the figures shows that the highest performers are those that have very little value proposition evolution, but also very little market familiarity. And that may be because the parent company is exploring in domains that are truly novel, spaces where there's not a lot of competition and where they can make a big impact by disrupting the current product market domains. My advice to companies starting new venturing opportunities is to be very careful and to plan ahead and recognize what types of ventures they're getting into, whether or not they have relevant market and product expertise or not, and then begin to make judgments on how those ventures are managed and how they're structured within the organization. You need to be very cognizant of what effects things might have on ventures depending on the degree to which they're related to the parent company.